Hi, everyone. My name is Allison DeJager. I'm with List Self Storage and StoreTrack. For those of you who don't know, List is a platform for buying and selling self-storage properties, and StoreTrack is a data platform for identifying opportunities. So today we are joined with Nelson Hendrix and David Alexander, both of Janus. We're talking through the R3 and facilitate programs there. So just to get started, Nelson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the industry? What products you work for with Janus?
Sure. So my name's Nelson Hendrix. I've been with Janus for 4 years. I've been in self-storage for almost 20, and been in construction overall for about 30 years. So I came over to Janus and started off in the field and moved to sales or back into sales about 3 years ago. And I handle the central part of the U.S. for the R3 division.
Okay, and then David, can you also provide a little bit of background information?
Sure. My name is David Alexander. I've been with Janus for 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I worked for a company that focused on facilities maintenance. So the role I was hired for at Janus really parlays off that, the facility maintenance on the storage side of things. So that's what we're doing with our new division that we call Facilitate, focusing on service and break fix type items for storage facilities.
Great, thank you. I want to just jump right in. David, definitely chime in, but Nelson, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about the R3 program, and can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, most people know who Janus International is, but may not be familiar with the R3 division. R3 is an acronym that stands for Restore, Rebuild, Replace. And we have products and services that are tailor-made for those storage facilities that are old, they look tired, they look worn out. In some cases, they're just completely dilapidated. So we have things that can help those facilities. You may not know, but there are 30,000 storage facilities in the United States that are 20 years old or older. And many of those are 30 and 40 years old. So there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of owners that have facilities that are in various stages of disrepair. There are prospective owners looking at buying facilities that are like this, and they want to know what they can do to bring this site back up to a relevant standard, increase rates, and make money with this venture. So R3 has those products and services, and some of the things that we do are door replacements. That's the number one thing that we do around the country all the time. We have door replacement projects going on, and it's the door replacement. The way we do door replacements is very detailed. And so we come in with our crew, with a security guard, with cameras and everything that we need, because we're going to be opening somebody's unit that has contents in it, because we don't require them to be vacated. We just come in, we'll remove whatever contents we need to get the old door out, put the new door in. We get a new lock on a new door, and the key is given to the security guard, who puts it in an envelope, and that's given to the storage manager at the end of every day. So it's a very detailed program meant to protect everybody involved, because when you're getting into people's contents, they're funny about that. Everybody would be. And so it's a very detailed program. Other things that we do are unit mix changes, because you know what worked 30 years ago or 40 years ago may not work now. You know, you have too many big units or too many small units. Well, we can change those in many cases to fit what you can rent today. Another thing we do is on interior hallways, we can reskin those hallways. So a lot of those hallways built back in those days were made of wood or dark metal, and with the poor lighting, it looks like a cave down through there. And so we can come in with our glossy white panel, go right over the top of what's existing, put some new LED lights in, new doors if we need to. And when that's done, that hallway looks like a brand new, construction project. Very bright, very engaging. It looks safe, it looks comfortable, and it looks new. People like that. And then other things that we can do in the R3 division to give you rentable square feet, if you need that, are the mass portable buildings. We can put those around little nooks and crannies on your property that aren't being used for anything else, or parking areas that have old beat up cars and boats and that kind of thing. Take those out, put a line of portable buildings in there. Now you have net rentable or rentable square feet to provide customers and make more money, with things like that. And any of those things that you do, if you make an improvement to your property, then automatically you increase rates, which brings in more money. You add value to the property by upgrading things and changing things, and you keep customers. You get new customers at higher rates. You add value to the property, and you make the place safe. So for all of those reasons, it's a good idea to take a look at the R3 program when you have a need like this, and implement some of those things. And we'll work with you. You don't have to do the whole site at one time. If you're talking about a door replacement, we can do it in stages, or whatever you need to do. Another thing that we see is when we talk about deferred maintenance or things like that, there are deferred maintenance means that there are maintenance issues that need to be taken care of, but they aren't, they're missed, and then they're missed again, and then they're missed again and again. And pretty soon years have gone by, and you just have all kinds of problems as a result. Some of the things that I see are, gutters that haven't been cleaned out, a bunch of leaves in the gutters. And if gutters get clogged and water gets into the building because of that, that's a huge problem. Driveways that have big potholes. Nobody wants to lose their car trying to get to a storage unit. So some of those potholes need to be taken care of. Vegetation or vines in a fence line. How many times have you seen a fence line at a storage place that just is filled with bushes and trees and whatnot? That needs to be taken care of, because when a potential new tenant drives onto the property and they see all these things, they wonder to themselves about whether they ought to rent there. Because if the owner doesn't care enough to take care of his property, how safe is their stuff going to be? That's kind of what goes through their mind. And so it's a good idea to take care of those things. And Facilitate is the division that David is with. And they do a lot of that. We work side by side, R3 and Facilitate.
Yeah, Nelson did a fantastic job of kind of teeing me up. So with Facilitate, we have a few tracks we can pursue. One of them would be doing non-Janus type of work. That's the best way to describe it. So paving, gutters, fencing, things like that. That's not something that Janus historically has gotten into, but something in the last few years we've decided, we need to help storage owners as much as we can. So the fencing, the parking lots, the gutters, things like that, we will do now. We can help you with those types of things. And that's one of the tracks we pursue through Facilitate. And as Nelson mentioned, he and I have worked together on several projects where he's working with the owner on reskins and door replacements. And then I'll be working on, say, a new roof or paving or fencing or things like that. So we can really do pretty much everything you might need at a facility. Now, in addition to that, with Facilitate, really the genesis of Facilitate was to handle like the day-to-day break fix types items. So while we've traditionally focused on these big CapEx type door replacements, what we hadn't done in the past at Janus was help with the small quantity door replacements. Maybe you're not quite ready to replace half the unit doors in your facility, but maybe you need 3 of them replaced or 5 of them replaced, just to to get you to where you're ready for a big CapEx type of replacements. That's what we'll do. We'll help you with the small quantity replacements. We'll help you with those small quantity repairs, so that you don't, as an owner, have to source 5 or 6 different trades to get one repair done. We'll take care of the gutters. We'll take care of the siding on the building. We'll take care of the doors if need be. So we try to consolidate all that into a one-stop shop so that as an owner, you don't have to source and chase 5 or 6 different tradesmen. Nelson talked about deferred maintenance. Frankly, that's where a lot of our repairs come from, is someone forgets to or neglects their gutters and all of a sudden there's a water leak or there's an issue. Those are the types of things that we do. So you really are doing yourselves a favor if you can keep up with that stuff, because it's going to cost more in the long run. And you can save yourself a lot of time, money, and headache if you'll take care of them on an as needed basis. With regards to doors, it's really tough to do kind of a planned maintenance on doors because typically the units you hope are occupied. So what I would suggest in those cases, as a tenant moves out, give yourself the opportunity to, check the door, make sure it's working properly. If it's not working properly, let us come out. In most cases, we can fix the door. Maybe it needs a little attention. Maybe it needs just a little love. We can take care of it so that you don't have an issue when a tenant's in it and all of a sudden now it's an emergency or it's in a crisis. So there's so many cases where we can just address a door in between tenants and give you more years out of it rather than just neglecting it, letting a spring break, and now all of a sudden it's an emergency.
David, on the door issue, there's a lot of doors that have been built in the past with exposed springs on the inside. So if you were to lower the door and look up, you would see the spring. And something that and everybody cleans out, all facilities clean out a unit when a tenant vacates. But something you can do that just doesn't take much time at all is just put a little bead of white lithium grease on that exposed spring and run it up and down a couple times. I'm sorry.
Can you repeat that? Put a little what on?
White lithium grease. You buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and you just spray it on, just a bead of grease, and then run that door up and down a couple of times. Let that work into the coils in the spring, and that will help that spring last a lot longer.
Yeah, that's
another thing you can do is just wipe down the plastic strips that are on the guide with soap and water. Don't use WD-40 or grease or oil or anything like that because it'll collect dust, but just use soap and water, and that will help the door slide up and down in the guide a little easier. So those are some kinds of things that people can do. Maybe they don't know to do, or they just neglect doing, that can, add a little life to the door.
I love it. Like a cheat sheet for storage.
The springs getting brittle and drying out. That's what causes them to break. So what Nelson suggested is great. Just put a little silicone on there, lubricate them, and that'll give you life. Don't let them dry out.
I think Allison, you mentioned it a second ago, a cheat sheet or a checklist.
Yeah.
Doing something to remind you that there's monthly maintenance or quarterly or annual, whatever it is, and just taking care of those things will help, a great deal. Now there's some things that it just happens, over time. And another thing that comes to mind is a car bumper hits a building and it damages the siding. It's a good idea to replace that stuff as it happens rather than let it build up and every building has a bunch of damaged panel, because again, all of these things that a potential customer sees that's not being addressed is just another reason to go somewhere else.
Yeah, putting in like those bollards, I think also is pretty important for exactly that
Absolutely reason. They're not expensive and they'll save those corners and areas of the building. It's a good idea.
So
we don't see those a lot, but they're a good idea.
Not to put you on the spot, do you have like a checklist or maybe like what you would recommend for like at tenant move out, or maybe like you had mentioned, monthly, quarterly, annually, some suggestions?
Yeah, I've got a checklist. I've put together in the past that I'd be happy to share with anyone if they want to reach out to me. And it does break it down, weekly, monthly, quarterly. It's just a suggestion, but it does give kind of a cadence to how you should look at things.
That's great. And if it's okay with you, again, not to put you on the spot, we would love to send a follow-up with a link to that for any viewers to just kind of take a look at
Sure.
for them to just kind of see if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So yeah, I know we discussed the ongoing maintenance. Do you have any other like pointers or feedback or suggestions just to share?
I wonder if it's something that would be a good idea to periodically ask tenants, is there a problem with your unit? Is there a problem with the site? Because maybe they're in a hurry and they didn't mention that the roof is leaking. There's water buildup or something in their unit, or something that they're seeing that probably ought to be brought to somebody's attention, but nobody's asking, and they're trying to get in and get out real quick. So just almost like a voice of the customer kind of thing, where you ask the question, give them an opportunity to point something out, and see if you get some constructive ideas.
And I love I'm just thinking through with Noki, where you can monitor a site visit, where you can almost the manager could follow up after the fact, knowing that they were there, and say,
yeah,
how was your visit? Any suggestions for us about the property or something to that effect? I don't know.
Absolutely. When you think about it, I thought about this a lot, and I may be wrong, but I think there are only, if you have a gate at your property, there are really only two things that a tenant comes in contact with when they come on site. It's the keypad for the gate, and it's the unit door. They don't go around touching the buildings and looking at the roof and all, they just don't do that. And so if they have to fight with the keypad or the gate or the unit door, that unit door is 30 years old. It's past its life. It doesn't work well. They bend over to raise it and they really have to crank on it. They can hurt themselves by doing that, and that happens regularly. Or when the door is raised, it doesn't stay in place and it comes down and it hits them in the head. I have heard of several lawsuits about this exact thing, and there's liability there. So taking care of those problems as units are cleaned out, being particular about whether that door really works well or not, will give the tenant a much better experience. It's not something they have to fight with. Make it something they don't have to fight with. Fix it so it becomes easy for them to use and for potential customers to use. Add value to the facility by taking care of these things before they become a real big problem.
Well, and to your point, the tenant only sees these 2 points, or only interacts with these 2 points. What's to stop that? One bad door could create, 4 bad. I can't remember what the rule of thumb is, but if you have a good experience,
no, you're exactly right.
Yeah, you tell one person if you have a good experience, you tell 4 people if you have a bad experience. So that one door out
Nobody
of
ever says
100.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare for people to comment or say something good about something, but boy, something bad happens, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And they've got an area of influence around them, other people. They can either say something positive about your site or something negative, and they're more likely to speak up about the negative than the positive. So yeah, having things in place to take care of that is a good idea. And Facilitate and R3 are designed specifically for that purpose.
So again, like you're talking to a toddler. So can I assume that Facilitate is kind of more ongoing maintenance, and then R3 is maybe addressing the deferred maintenance. Is that right? Or am I getting it backwards?
So it can be looked at a couple of different ways, depending on how you wanted to do like a door replacement, for example. You could replace just a couple of doors at a time as needed. But when you have a line of doors down a building, say you've got, 30 to 40 doors, and you have multicolored doors because you're replacing some, but you're not replacing others, it doesn't look great. So if you can replace a whole side at a time, and that's going to be more of a one-time thing that you do, and maybe you do it in stages. Whereas some small items like cleaning out gutters, or we even facilitate even does things as small as replacing air filters and things like that, right, David?
Right.
It can be anything, and having something like that you do periodically, that would be more of a facilitate thing.
That's great. Thank you, guys. Did you have anything that you wanted to share also before we close out?
Just don't neglect those day-to-day things. You
Yeah.
yourself money in the end.
That's a reasonable thing to share.
Right.
Yeah, and when you do have a need, you can get things done through local contractors and other ways, but nobody that I know of has the comprehensive program for replacing doors and things that pertain to storage. Janus is really focused on storage, and any contractor that you call out of the phone book or whatever, nobody uses phone books anymore, but any contractor they're not specializing in storage. And so I think it's important to look at companies that know storage, that deal in storage, that have people that work for them that focus on storage. And that way you get a better experience, a great product, and it helps the overall facility.
Well, and on a global level. So it's safe to say you've kind of seen it all.
No doubt.
So.
No doubt. There's a lot of owners that are based in one state, but they have facilities all over the country, and or multiple locations. And so, you get the same consistent quality and product from Janus because we're everywhere. And we have manufacturing plants that service all of these areas. So you're not paying a ton in freight and things like that. So there's some real benefits to Janus with the R3 and the facilitate programs.
That's so helpful. Thank you both so much. Before we close out, would you please give your contact information for anybody who has any questions? Starting, David, can you
Sure. Yes. My name's David Alexander. So email is david.alexander. That's ALEXANDER. david.alexander@janusintl.com.
And then Nelson, can you?
I'm sorry.
No, please keep going.
Phone number, if you want to reach me by phone, is 470-218-9895.
Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. And again, my name is Nelson Hendrix. I don't know if you can see it on your screen or not, but Hendrix is with an X. So it's nelson.hendrix@janusintl.com. It's just Janus International abbreviated. And my number is 470-347-4582. I would love to talk to you about a project that you're considering, give you some ideas, some pointers. Would love to be able to help.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate sharing your insight on this subject.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yes.
Always glad to do this. Thank you very much.
And thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, 248-795-8126, or my email is Allison, ALISON, @listselfstorage.com. You can also contact Cindy Rivera at Cindy, CINDY, @StoreTrack, STORTRACK.com. Thanks so much.